I was fueling up at a pilot off I-80 in Nebraska. Early morning, sun barely up, fog hugging the ground. That kind of quiet where even the diesel pumps feel like they're whispering. There was an old W900 parked across the lot. Clean chrome, deep black paint. Looked like it had just rolled off a magazine cover. No markings. No dot numbers. No plates. Guy steps out wearing a full denim setup. Pressed jeans, old school snap shirt, boots so polished they caught the morning light. He walks over real calm and says, "You headed east?" I said, "Yeah." Told him I had a drop in Des Moines. He nods, silent for a second. Then he says, "Watch for the white car, it won't stop, but you should." I blinked, thinking maybe he was just messing with me. Before I can ask, he walks off behind my trailer. I wait a few seconds, then step around to catch him again. Gone. Not in the lot. Not at the pumps. That truck, the W900, vanished. I mean it. It was like it never parked there. 2 hours later, eastbound near Lincoln, fog thick as soup, a white sedan came flying across the median from the opposite direction. I slammed my brakes. So did the driver next to me. That car missed us both by inches and plowed into the trees. If I hadn't slowed when I did, you wouldn't be reading this. I pulled over, shaken up, and just sat for a while. Then I reached for my logbook to jot it all down. Just to process it, you know? But there was a page already filled in. My handwriting. Same truck stop. Same date. Entry time, 30 minutes before I even arrived. Scribbled underneath, "Listen to the quiet ones." It was the fall of 2016. I was hauling medical supplies out of Salt Lake, headed to St. Louis. Route was smooth, dry weather, good timing, no dot pulls. By the time I hit eastern Colorado, it was getting late. I'd been driving for close to 9 hours. I was tired, dehydrated, and running on beef jerky and coffee. I told myself I'd pull over at the next rest area I saw. About 15 minutes later, I spot a blue sign. Rest area, 2 miles. But no exit number, no mile marker, just the sign. I figured maybe it was one of those older pull-offs not listed on newer GPS maps. I come around a bend, and sure enough, there it is. Old concrete lot, 2 light poles flickering, and 3 picnic tables half sunk into overgrown grass. A single porta-john near the edge of the trees. But I'm beat, so I park. I step out to stretch. And instantly the silence hits me. Not like usual truck stop silence. This was dead air. No bugs, no wind, not even distant highway hum. Then I noticed the other trucks. 3 of them, all lined up neat, nose in, side by side. Like they'd been parked by someone measuring with a ruler. But none were running. No lights, no cab glow, and no one inside. I knocked on one. Nothing. I peeked in another. Cab was clean, seat pushed back, thermos still full in the cup holder, but no driver. Now I'm thinking I should just keep moving. I get back to my rig, climb in and reach for the ignition. But my keys are gone. Panic hits. I tear the cab apart. Nothing. Then I look up, and the rest area is gone. I swear to God. Gone. I'm parked on the shoulder of the interstate. Lights flying past me. No porta-john. No picnic tables. No other trucks. Just me alone like I never pulled off. I check the GPS history, nothing logged. Check the dash cam. Footage ends right before the rest stop turnoff. I find my keys. Right there. In the ignition. Where they'd always been. Except I'd searched there first. I drove the rest of the night in silence. Didn't speak to anyone. Didn't sleep until I crossed into Missouri. Weeks later, I drove the same route again. No blue sign. No rest area. I even called DOT Colorado. They told me. There hasn't been a rest stop on that stretch since 2003. It was decommissioned and torn down. I passed through in 2016. So where the hell was I? It was early 2020, right before the world went sideways. I had a load of frozen chicken coming out of Arkansas, headed to Cheyenne. I remember being tired, not dangerously tired, just foggy. The kind of tired where the rumble strips sound like a lullaby. I pulled into a Love's off US 287 around 2 a.m., filled up, grabbed a Red Bull, and sat in the cab for a minute checking my route. That's when a driver knocked on my passenger door. Late 50s, bald, thick beard, hoodie with some faded trucking company logo I didn't recognize. He says, "You mind if I sit a minute? Just need a break from my cab." I hesitated, but said sure. We talked. About loads. about routes. He told me he used to run I-80 back when CBs ruled the road. Said his name was Mitch. He looked exhausted. Said his wife had passed last winter, and the road was the only place that didn't remind him of her. After maybe 15 minutes, he says, "You ever had a blackout mile?" I looked at him sideways. He continued, "The ones you can't explain. Like you're here, then you're not, and when you are again, the road's different." I joked, "That's called zoning out." He shook his head. "No, you lose time like it got cut out of your logbook." Then he just stared at the windshield. I glanced at the clock, 2:48 a.m. Turned back to tell him I needed to hit the road. He was gone. Passenger door still locked. No sign of him outside. I shook it off. Assumed I must have nodded off. Started the truck, pulled onto the road. Next thing I know, it's light out. Sun rising over flat land. Dashboard says 6:12 a.m. I checked the miles. I'd gone 143 miles. No memory of any of it. Didn't stop, didn't sleep, didn't see another vehicle. No calls on the log. No GPS blip. It was like someone picked me up at that truck stop and dropped me off 2 hours later. Somewhere else. When I delivered in Cheyenne, I asked one of the guys if they ever heard of a driver named Mitch who lost his wife. Guy's face went pale. Said that name used to run through that corridor. Died in a wreck on 287 in 2003. His wife passed 6 months before that. I told him I just met Mitch. He said, "You wouldn't be the first." It was 2014. I was doing nightly regional runs out of Harrisburg, mostly freight transfers, pick up, drop, reload, and bounce. One night I get a last-minute dispatch to a drop lot I'd never been to. On paper, it looked simple. Pull into the lot, swap a reefer, haul it 60 miles to a cold storage facility done by 3 a.m. GPS routed me through a quiet industrial park. And I mean quiet, like nothing was operating. No lights, no forklifts humming, no diesel generators humming from far away. Just warehouses that looked like they hadn't seen a shift change in 20 years. But the GPS insisted, "Destination on your right." Sure enough, there's a chain-link gate with an old, weather-beaten sign. East Lane Distribution, Drop Yard. Looked like no one had used it since '96. I pulled in anyway. There were trailers, at least 10 of them, all lined up like dominoes. All white, all reefers, all unmarked. No logos, no stickers, no numbers. Even the DOT plates had been scratched off. The weird part? Every single unit had condensation on the side. Running. I cut the engine and stepped out. It was cold. Way colder than it should have been for early September. Not fall chill like see your breath cold. I start walking down the line of trailers, flashlight in hand, looking for the one with my dispatch code. Then I see it. Spray painted in black near the rear bumper. 41K. I hook up, tug test, walk around. But something's bugging me. The inside of that trailer was spotless, like nobody had ever used it. I close the doors, lock up, and get ready to roll. Then I hear it. Tap, tap, tap. From inside another reefer. I turn. One of the other trailers is shaking. Just slightly. Another tap. This time louder. Tap, tap. Then silence. I stared at that trailer for maybe 30 seconds. Then it went still. Completely still. I'm not gonna lie. I left. Didn't report it. Didn't check it. Didn't even blink when dispatch called and said, "Next time let us know if the lot's active." Because when I checked the load manifest later, East Lane Distribution had been dissolved in 2008. And when I looked for the lot on Google Maps again, there was no gate, no sign, no reefers, just an empty field. Back in 2018, I was running a load of electronics from Memphis to Charlotte. Middle of summer, windows down, radio low, just me in the night. I'd been driving about 9 hours straight and figured I'd stop just before the state line. Pulled off near a small town. Nothing special, just a BP and a diner that never seemed open. There's a 4-way intersection there. One of those old setups where the stoplight hangs from wires instead of poles. It was blinking yellow both ways. Nobody around. Not a single car in sight. Except her. She was standing at the corner, mid-30s, maybe younger, wearing a faded sundress and holding a suitcase. I figured she must have missed a bus or something. When I pulled up, she stepped toward the road like she wanted to cross. I tapped the brakes. She stopped, stared. I rolled the window down and asked, "You okay?" She nodded, slow like it took effort, then asked, "Are you headed east?" "Yeah," I said to Charlotte. She looked down the highway, then back at me, then said something that froze me. "He'll be waiting there." I asked who she meant. She didn't answer. She just turned and walked away, right into the woods behind the gas station. I sat there for a minute, waiting to see if she'd come back out. She didn't. I pulled into the gas station, parked, and walked around the building toward the trees. Nothing. No movement. No trail. Not even footprints in the dirt. I went inside the station, asked the clerk if anyone had come in recently. He said no. I asked if he'd seen a woman out by the road. He looked at me kind of blank, then said, "Man, people always ask that same thing." I said, "What same thing?" He replied, "About the girl with the suitcase," then walked away like it wasn't even weird. I left. Didn't stop again until the sun came up. Never saw her again, but I've run that route 5 or 6 times since. And I always slow down at that blinking light, just in case she's still there, looking for a ride east.